welcome to Digital Health News. We are here today at AI Disrupt event by NASCOM Center of Excellence in Bangalore. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Nandagopal
Thank you.
Gopinath, partner healthcare at Mavin Ventures. And he will be talking to us about Mavin Ventures playbook for healthcare investment. Thank you so much for joining us. My first question to you is what are the key indicators do you look at when you are evaluating early stage health tech startups, especially in an ecosystem which is as diverse as India's?
All right. So we have I would say Maven has a very different system, which includes the usual metrics such as revenue, TAM, and all that. But apart from that, we start with since we have a focus on breakthrough innovations, we actually measure the level of innovation. So yeah, we have to classify whether it falls as a breakthrough or a transformational, and there are different levels. Number one. Then we apply sector-specific metrics. So in healthcare, it would be maybe healthcare outcomes to start with, and that may not be available, but there are, let's say, methods to evaluate outcomes at a much earlier stage as well. And lastly, it could be about even quality of life. So you apply sector-specific on top of innovation as an indicator or metric. Then comes the revenue and the TAM. And lastly, it's about the soft skills of an entrepreneur, the founder as well, because we consider it very important because these are usually B2B companies, and you need to know how to do the sale or to navigate the system within a large call. So communication skills, value proposition, all of that becomes very, very crucial indicators for us to evaluate.
Absolutely, and healthcare is a very complex ecosystem. From an investor's lens, which are the areas within digital health, be it maybe artificial intelligence or precision medicine or maybe remote patient monitoring? What are the areas that excite you or interest you? What are the areas where you more likely to invest in?
So I would say all of them, but then it'll be on breakthrough across. So be it life sciences, if it is biotech, then even at a molecule level, we can look at companies that operate in that space, provided they have gained some traction. And traction in this case is not revenues. It can even be, let's say, a pre-discussion to a license deal, or it could even be just toxicology studies, or maybe even in vitro studies. So we go a little backward, but definitely it will be at a seed stage, or let's say when they have some proof of concept, either in vitro or toxicology, or a conversation with a large pharma company. It depends upon the case. So that's in life sciences. Now, if you look at medtech, that's another, let's say, a totally different area where we would actually look at the differentiation rather than, which makes it breakthrough. So that is one, and it could be AI, it could be, let's say, a signal, or it could capture, or it could even be a chip. So it's very varied over there. So it really depends on what, let's say, the differentiation is across, even if it is, let's say, access, patient access. I mean, there are a lot of companies in telehealth, and it's still picking up in India and rural areas. But beyond that, there is, let's say, can we actually move from diagnosis to treatment? Can we actually deliver light sources at distance and control the dosimeters? And this is applied in different therapy areas. So again, even in a saturated market like access, breakthrough can actually make, or differentiation can actually create value.
Healthcare startups and healthcare in general, we have to live with the regulatory realities also. So, how do you balance innovation potential with regulatory reimbursement and adoption challenges when backing disruptive healthcare solutions?
Right. So you can see it as a challenge, but the other side of it is an opportunity to reduce what is called as the trust deficit. Any product that is there, that is prescribed by a doctor, by a hospital, or even bought directly by the consumer, will need to satisfy some trust factor. Otherwise, even if it is a consumer, you will have a certain level of sales, but repeat buying may not really happen. Correct. So trust deficit is solved. That's the reason why people go into that. Now, amongst doctors, it becomes more crucial. Amongst hospitals, again, more crucial. But if you balance it with, let's say, the optimal balance depends upon, let's say, there are methods to it. For example, in let's say the life science world, there is the in vitro trials. There are smaller trials. We at Maven, we have a different model, which is called the 5-step model, which balances the fund that you have spreads it across sales as well as the regulatory support that, or let's say activity that is required. So we go step by step to reach. It's a goal to reach. If you directly focus onto that, it's a do or die kind of a situation. Can we actually gain some traction so that we can reduce the burn? Is what we try to address.
Correct. Given your background and venture experience, how do you guide startups in aligning their tech with real clinical needs and scalable business models? Because I think adoption is one area, and clinicians, especially senior clinicians, are more, resistant to changes or new technology coming in the play. So, how do you sort of, help them align their clinical needs, their tech with the real?
Well,
clinical
that's a
needs?
very important one. It's actually not the tech that you're selling. It's not the product. It's the value proposition. And any startup, no matter how passionate they're about the product, it is very likely to happen that you build something, you get attached to it, do, especially because you're doing it daily in and out. But if you're not able to tell a doctor that this is going to reduce your time by this X%, or it is going to increase something else by X%, there's no value prop. Right? Be it a doctor, if it is a hospital, it becomes a little bit more complex because decision making then becomes a matrix organization. It could be matrix if it's a chain. Small organizations, easier to go. But there, it may not be on value proposition. The ability to control price will be lower if you don't have differentiation. If you go to the let's say the low-hanging fruits, it will be a price war, and you'll be discounting, and so on. So each segment has a different, mechanism, but it all starts with defining the value proposition. I cannot emphasize this even more. Whenever we talk to innovation-led companies, which have they have heavy science people, PhDs with 10 years, 15 years of experience. Some of them being academicians. I'm not saying all are the same. But no matter what, even if it's an LLM, let's say if we are not able to talk about the reduction or the cost savings from a people perspective, if it is focused on R&D, then how much of time is it going to save? Then it does not come clear to the end person who is signing the deal.
Right.
A stakeholder that is, let's say, a manager might actually like it, but then somebody who has the budget may not understand it enough. So I would emphasize on aligning the value proposition than the product. So I would go by, let's say, problem statement, solution, what your product does, your benefit, and lastly, what's the differentiation?
Thank you for that. One last question. You briefly touched on your emphasis, Mavin Ventures' emphasis on breakthrough innovation. Could you just elaborate that? What do you mean when you say breakthrough innovation in healthcare?
So when I say emphasis, I'm not saying that we won't do the others. So innovation levels are of different kinds. You have breakthrough, transformational, incremental, and so on. So breakthrough is usually the simplest way to understand it is a new product or a new technology in a totally different industry. You're actually creating an industry. If you know in healthcare, if you know the microbiome, that's one, is now gaining traction, so people should know it. That's why I think there are others as well. But that is something which created, a different aspect in nutrition and healthcare. It's changing everything. Even it created a new way of medicine, new mechanism of medicine called, functional medicine. New way of practice for doctors. So that's one example. But are we there yet in terms of, let's say, a value prop or, let's say, measurable impact or healthcare outcomes? Not yet there. That we understand. So that's breakthrough. Transformational would be there's a new technology, but then it's applied in an existing industry. For example, the simplest one to understand would be pathology. What Siktable did in pathology, they applied an image analysis onto an existing industry, right? The incremental would be an existing, let's say you have a scale or a captive population, you're already there in the market. You either want to increase your repeatability or you want to, let's say, extend to the same market. So instead of creating a totally new product, it can be a new feature. So for example, simplest and easy to understand would be e-commerce and quick commerce. Same population, you run a different delivery mechanism. Yeah, and the last one is usually like convenience oriented. There are different terms in in the innovation quadrant. That would be which usually automates a process. Like for example, taxi booking was not there. In 3 screens, you're now able to book, right? That's also an innovation. right? But in the sense, the focus on that is at a different level, and that is the fourth quadrant in our view.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for
Thank you
these
so
great
much.
insights. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.